Hello, good morning, and welcome to Parrot TV. This is the politics, and my name is Sainabou Baldeh. I'm your host, and today we have Mrs. Yadhira González-Taylor joining us from New York. She's a candidate for civil court. Please, would you mind giving us a brief introduction about yourself, Ms. Yadhira?
Hi, good morning, Sainabou. My name is Yadhira González-Taylor. I am a native Bronxite here in the Bronx, born and raised on the west side of the Bronx, born in Belmont, raised on 181 in Davidson, went to all the schools on the Aqueduct. And I'm an attorney with almost 20 years experience. That doesn't even include the legal work I did while I was a law student. And I am a veteran of the U.S. Army, served the U.S. military as military police starting at the age of 19 for 6 years in the Army Reserve. And so I am running for civil court judge in Bronx County.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for joining us today. So we're just gonna get right into it. Our first question is: Do you? Obviously, every state has its own unique legal or judiciary system. What makes the New York operational system of the judiciary stand out amongst other states in the United States?
Well, our court system in New York State is a complicated system. We have different levels of judiciary. We have appellate division, we have middle, we have the lower courts, but we are actually one of the few states that call our lower court Supreme Court, whereas if you go to other states, you have higher appellate division courts that call themselves the Supreme Court. So just as the United States, the nation knows the Supreme Court with the 9 justices as the Supreme Court, in New York State, our Supreme Court is actually one of our lower levels. I'm running for civil court judge in the civil court system, which is one level under the state Supreme Court system. It is somewhat of a complicated system. We have family court, we have criminal court, we have civil system, which is where you sue your neighbors for monetary damages and other issues. You could sue your employer, you could sue your commercial lease holder. If you're a business owner, you could sue people. So the court system in New York State is pretty complicated as opposed to other states that have a little bit more merged. There is a move by the Chief Justice to kind of simplify our court system into one or two central, more organized, so that people have more of a understanding and access to the complicated system that we operate in the state.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's actually really informative. It was summarized really efficiently for us. Do you have to be a lawyer to work within the system to change the system, or is it something that's available for, let's say, somebody just in the community that's just trying to help?
So
what does it take to be there, to add value to the judiciary?
Oh, wow. There are so many positions in the judiciary system that people could provide value for. And I, as a public servant, I've been a public servant for 20 years now. I've been a public servant since the age of 19, and I'm going to be 48 this Sunday. So way more than 20 years, but I've been a lawyer for 20 years. But how do you add value to the judiciary? You add value to our judiciary and our system of justice by being a good person. And you don't have to be a judge or a lawyer to do that, right? We have so many wonderful people that work for our system. We have the law clerks, we have the court attorneys, we have the secretaries, we have the administrative clerks, we have people who help you at the front desk when you show up to our court system. So how do we add value to the judiciary in our own position? We don't have to be lawyers to do that, right? If we have a position within the judge system and we treat the people that come through the doors of the court with respect and dignity, that in itself, day by day, you're adding value to the judiciary. You're adding trust of the judiciary. So if I'm a person that's walking in and I have a tenant situation as a business owner, if I own my own home and if I own a 2-family home and I'm trying to settle a dispute with my tenant, and the person that greets me at the courthouse, whether it is the court officer or the judge or the secretary or the clerk, if any of those people treat me with kindness and respect, I am more likely to be respectful and follow the authority that is bestowed upon me by the people that I'm standing before than someone who is not treated with dignity and respect. That's actually a concept called procedural justice in the criminal justice system, which means that studies have shown that people who are treated this way, who leave knowing and having the understanding that they were listened to, that they were treated with kindness, and that their case was heard, truly heard and paid attention to, are more likely to leave content, even if they have lost. So for me, anybody in any position in the courthouse, in the criminal justice system, whether you're a police officer, police commissioner, anyone that has to deal with the public, if we lead from that space of understanding that the publics have different needs and that each person we meet we have to treat accordingly, then we can add value to the system.
That's beautifully put. I really like that.
Yes.
I really like that. Why does someone have to be a contestant basically for the judiciary position?
Okay.
Wouldn't it lead to basically bias in a sense, or would it be, are we picking who we're putting in that position, or would the community actually have a choice?
So
Because I did read those that this year for the elections, we do have a lot of people are concerned that there's not going to be that much of a turnout. So how do you guys basically challenge that?
that is very difficult, right? So I want as many people to participate in my election as possible, because I want you to know who the candidates are, and I want you to know who the choices are. I mean, I hope you'll pick me, right? But you have the right to choose one among 5. There are 2 vacancies in the Bronx. This year, there are 2 vacancies for civil court, and there are 5 candidates. I invite you to check out my website, www.ygtforbronxjudge.com, to check me out, but also check out the other candidates and see what they have to offer. I believe in inclusive democracy. I think that you want to look for people with lived experience who are going to provide a service to the community that they can reflect not only on their law, right, their mind and intellectual capacity, but that they have a frame of reference to guide their decision making, right, which is lived experience and the things that we have seen as human beings. Now, to get back to your question, because I don't want to divert too much, can you help me out, because I went a little bit you were saying, please let me know.
No, you're good. It happens. We're just we wanted to know why do we have to contest for such a position?
Yes, so we want to contest, yes, because we want to have the best candidate possible, right? What's happening with elections this year, you have, and this is very important for any voter who is interested in participating, you have mayor, controller, city council, you have judges. You also have things called judicial delegates, which are non-paid elected positions that are put on the ballot, and the voters elect the judicial delegate that's going to go to a judicial convention later on in August to select a judge of the Supreme Court. That's not applicable to my race, but what hurts the judge races is that by the time everybody gets done electing their mayor, their city council, their controller, they're going to be so tired that they're going to be like, I don't even want to bother to pick a judge, because I've had to select 1 of 5 for mayor, 1 of 5 for city council, 1 of 5 for controller. So ranked choice voting is great, but it is hurting the down ballot races, right? Because no one wants to really take their time. I know that it's going to be difficult to sit there and study all the names and everything. So what I'm encouraging people to do is to study ahead of time and figure out who they want to select. My name is going to be all the way at the bottom, possibly at the back of the ballot, because judges are at the bottom of the ballot. Now, my argument is, right, who are you more likely to meet in life, in real life? A judge as a litigant, a defendant, or someone who's suing someone? Or are you more likely to meet the president of the United States?
That's a good question. One is it? When she say it like that, it's like, you have a point. I'm gonna definitely probably see one of it before the other.
So you could potentially see me as someone who is suing your neighbor because they broke your fence, right? As simple as that. Small claims where I arbitrate all sorts of conflicts between my neighbors here in the Bronx. So you're more likely to see a judge than you are to meet the president of the United States. Both positions serve a purpose. Both positions are important. And just because the judge's position is at the bottom of the ballot doesn't mean they should be, not taken care of by the voter.
That's understand doesn't mean it's any less important. Do you believe that inclusivity is important? Like for instance, there's a lot of people of different ethnicities, especially in Bronx. You guys have a majority of half the county is Hispanics. You know what I mean? So it's like representation. Is that very important in the court?
It is very important in the courts. And yes, the majority population in the Bronx is Latino, Latinx, right? And the majority population is women. Okay, but it's not just Latinx. We have West Africans, we have Yemeni, we have Arab Americans, we have different religious populations. We have every religion that you can think of is reflected in the county of the Bronx. We have African Americans. So I'm about inclusive democracy, which also includes, ethnic representation. Latina women are underrepresented in the judiciary. But did you know veterans are even more underrepresented than women in the judiciary? The Bronx has not elected a veteran in a very long time. I am a veteran of the U.S. Army, and I bring that perspective as well. So I'm not just a lady who's a Hispanic woman, and I'm not running on that, even though it's great to have diversity on the bench. I'm running on diversity of life, having had exposure to family court systems as a young person, being the daughter of an abused mother who had to go get an order of protection. That's my lived experience. Having helped my mother in eviction proceedings as a teenager in housing court, that's my lived experience. Being a survivor of child abuse, that's my lived experience. And having an incarcerated parent that I had to travel to Dinamora, Clinton facility, 14 hours away by bus, that's my lived experience. So when you're talking about a judge behind the bench who is, considering outcomes, you want to talk about a judge who is, yes, showing the people that they look like me, right? I'm a Puerto Rican woman who grew up in the Bronx with Puerto Rican grandparents. I went back and forth at times to Puerto Rico, but I have an enriching amount of adversity that I have harnessed into positive energy in terms of using that bad stuff that's happened in my past to formulate and shape who I am as a thinker and as a lawyer and as a future judge in the Bronx.
That is very beautiful. I always do believe that you have to have experience to understand the people in your community. You have to experience what they've gone through to have a better understanding. So I know for people hearing that, that actually does give them a new perspective on who you are as an individual running. They see you more as a person and not just somebody that's trying to go for a position of power. And I believe that that is very important. How best do you believe to communicate with your community? How do you get in touch with them to get them more involved, especially with your campaign and all?
So we are definitely going to be door knocking, right? We're going to be door knocking. We're going to be phone calling. I actually started phone banking already. I trained my volunteers yesterday, and we're phone banking. We're calling neighbors. We're letting people know. We're coming on Facebook. We're doing lives. We're doing everything that we need to know to do, and going to the subways and saying hello to everyone, and making sure that that we exist, that I exist, that my campaign exists, so that you can check me out. That's pretty much what we're doing. And in phone call conversations to let people know that there's a choice and have that down ballot conversation. And I'm encouraging you to also have that conversation with voters in the Bronx, in the city of New York, because there are actually 19 judicial seats open. In the Bronx, there are 2. In New York City, there are 19. So in 2022, we're going to have 19 new judges, right? So those are judges that could be assigned to any of our counties. They could be assigned to the Bronx. They could be assigned to any of the other boroughs. So you want to know who's there. You're not going to necessarily be voting for them because you're living in the Bronx, but you want to know, you want to know that there are these positions available, and that oftentimes people don't hear about them because it's such a down ballot type race.
So what is
And if
the
any, yeah, go ahead.
what is the key role of a civil judge, and why is it important for for a county like the Bronx?
Wow, it's just a very, very important job. Like I said, you're more likely to see a judge in the Bronx than you are to meet the president, unless they're campaigning for their office, right? Judges in the Bronx, the position that I'm running for, civil court, right? If elected, I can be assigned to criminal court or family court or civil court. Civil court covers commercial aspects and financial situations if you're suing for money. Criminal court is if you are accused of a misdemeanor, you may appear before me as the judge because you've been accused of committing anything from an assault, a simple assault, what we call a simple assault, which is assault that results in very minor injury, to something that can land you in jail for up to a year. These are misdemeanors. Criminal court judges can also be assigned to Supreme Court to handle felony cases, which are much more serious in nature. Family court judges, also civil court judges elected to civil court, can also be assigned to family court, which means custody battles, domestic violence situations where you may need an order of protection against your spouse or your partner, your intimate partner, child custody visitation, child support issues. So it says civil court, but think of it as what I used to call multi-purpose as an MP, military police, which was, I was an MP, but I could be assigned to anything, right? So it's important to know that this position is not just for civil court, which is monetary, just as serious, very important situation if you have a monetary situation and you want to resolve that conflict with a judge. But I could also end up being your criminal court judge and your family court judge. That is very important for our families in the Bronx because we find ourselves as people of color involved in the criminal justice system very frequently, right? Our criminal justice system is in currently undergoing reform by the government that is responsible for reforming. I am not a reformer, meaning I am not part of the government that is reforming the criminal justice system. I am a candidate for civil court judge. I want to offer my philosophy, my judicial philosophy, which is that of procedural justice, right? Which is that we all deserve fairness, dignity, and respect, regardless of what we look like, where we come from, how we sound, what our accents are, right? Our religion. And therefore that provides for that aspect of the reform, that people are going to be treated well and they're going to have their day in court.
So how did you get involved in this political judiciary activity, and what is missing in the system, and what do you plan to gain? I know it's like 3 questions in one.
That's 3 questions, and I'm a talker, so I don't know. Let me see how I can tackle that. Let's tackle it one at a time. So
how did you get involved in the political judiciary activity?
Yes. So how I got involved, I've been a hearing officer for 11 years, right? And I've been a lawyer for almost 20, but I've been a hearing officer for almost 12 now going. And that's a judicial position. That's what we call a quasi-judicial position. I'm not a judge per se, but I do judicial work. I listen to cases and I make decisions. And people started suggesting to me, hey, other lawyers started saying, hey, Yadhira, why don't you consider running for judge? And I was like, I don't know. I had a friend that went through it and it didn't work out. So I was like, I don't know if I have, the skin to do it. It's a lot, it's hard. But they kept encouraging me and I was like, okay, maybe I'll think about it. So as time went by, I thought about it, did the research, and I got involved. I started networking. I started meeting other elected officials. I started asking how to go about it. And I did the best that I could in terms of finding out how to run for office. And here I am. That's how I ended up actually becoming a politician, to run for an elected position. So that's how I ended up getting involved. What is missing in the court system? I think that was the second question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is missing and what can be improved upon is diversity of what I call a lived experience, right? And professional experience. We have great judges. We have great people who work in the system. I know many of them, and they do a fabulous job. What I have to offer that is not reflected among the pool of people that are traditionally considered for these positions are divergence in professional experience. So for example, I'm a veteran. Again, that hasn't been something that has been put in the forefront or selected for an elected official. As a veteran of the U.S. Army, military police, I did not go to conflict or war, but I know many who did, and I know the sacrifice that it takes to promise to uphold the Constitution. And that's how I look at my own oath as a lawyer, reflecting on the sacrifice of a soldier to protect that liberty. I have the lived experience, right, of having been abused as a child, survived, that abuse and having the incarcerated parent experience. I'm not saying that any of the other candidates or judges don't have that. I don't know, so I'm not saying I'm the only person that has had that experience, but I know that that is not something that is often referred to as a candidate.
Here every day.
Right. That's pretty much what I think can be improved upon, which is more of a diverse, eclectic type of candidate. And here I am. That's me.
And so, what do you plan to gain while in this position?
Well, I'm not seeking the power, right? I like what I do. I actually enjoy doing the quasi judicial work because I work with young people and I talk to them about what they're doing in school. And when they do infractions, I try to get them on the right path. And I believe that I have been successful one student at a time, one day at a time. And I can do that for the rest of my life until I retire. What I hope I can gain is a bigger platform to help more people. So instead of just helping the students, that I can help my entire Bronx community. Or if I get assigned to Manhattan, I can help the entire Manhattan community who has conflicts coming before me as a judge. I'm hoping that my experience from the last 20 years can translate to a bigger community where I can have a bigger impact. And as a judge, to also encourage other people to pursue the same path, mentor young lawyers to hopefully do the same thing. And seek out people that look like me and have similar life experiences to understand that adversity is not an obstacle in success. You can actually survive all of those things and still come on top.
Do you think that politicization of the judiciary is ideal?
So in terms of politics and the judiciary?
Yes, ma'am.
I whether it's ideal or not, it is very difficult to become a judge by election and not be political, right? That's a very hard question, possibly quite controversial.
Unfairness in the judicial operations?
You mean like because it's political?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, in terms of unfairness, I mean, we're running for office. So my position is I'm approaching my neighbors to let them know that I am running. That in itself is political, right? There's also meritorious ways of getting to be a judge that you have to apply to government officials to consider you for appointment. So even that is political. So in every aspect, becoming a judge can be political. Once a judge becomes a judge, however, the political aspect of having become a judge sort of has to disappear. The judge becomes isolated. They have to study what they're practicing, what they're judging. So political influence, political understandings, friendships and allyships that were built during campaigning, those things cannot ever, it's a sacred situation, cannot ever affect the judge's decision. That is why a judge's race is different than other elected officials. I am not allowed to ask for money directly to anyone. I cannot call anyone and say, hey, can you give me money for my campaign? There are rules that I have to follow in order for the campaign to be able to fund through donations. I'm not allowed to ask directly. That's very difficult because it puts me at a disadvantage when you think about it, right? But the political allyship, political friendships, all of those things have to be checked at the door when you put on the robe. And so I think of it as a chance to prove courage, right? When you have people that have pushed for you, endorsed you, they've pushed for you to get elected, and then you get elected. One day you may have those people appear before you, whether it's a criminal matter or civil matter, and you have to say, hey, I'm a judge first, right? I am your friend, I know you, but listen, if I cannot be fair, then I have to give this case to another judge. And I hope I addressed your questions. It's politics and judgeships are very, 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 it's a big conversation.
Yes. And in your response, I do believe that it does create transparency for the community to understand that you do have to be held accountable for your decisions in that matter. So we actually do appreciate that, especially now that there's a lot of communities that don't have a lot of faith in their elected officials at all, because we cannot exactly trust what they say. So I believe that would create a very beautiful opportunity for us to kind of witness that. So hopefully we'll see that. We'll get a chance to witness that.
Mhm.
How do you, is the is systematic racism still a problem in the Bronx County judicial system? And if yes, how practical do you plan to eliminate it if
Well,
elected?
the Chief Justice DeFiore, after the Floyd incident last summer, George Floyd's killing last summer, in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, in response to the protest movements after the killing in Minnesota, um, she ordered a study of the court system. She commissioned a series of individuals, professionals, to study our court system to determine what racial issues we might have in our court system. And what was discovered as a result of that commission was that we do have racist situations. We've had systemic racism within the court system. I'm not pointing directly at Bronx County. Bronx County Civil Court is pretty diverse. So in terms of the reflection of the bench itself, that's not what DeFiore was talking about. This is a general Office of Court Administration question, right? Like the court system of the state of New York, the entire state, which is a pretty big state. So I'm not focusing my answer on the Bronx itself. That commission found that there is systemic racism within the court administration, that lawyers anonymously and some judges anonymously reported having incidents of racist tensions or incidents where racist things happened to them. Particular lawyers of color reported being confused for something else other than a lawyer, and even being questioned when they said, no, I am a lawyer. There have been anecdotes of judges that have been questioned. Are you the judge? And they've said, yes, I'm the judge. And they've been re-questioned. Are you sure you're the judge? Are you the secretary? So racist or racist incidents within the court system do exist, just like they exist in every other institution in the United States of America, right? We cannot deny that at this point, right? What Judge DeFiore did with that commission was she got recommendations for implementation of changes into the system, and there are changes that I'm not part of the Office of Court Administration, so I'm not speaking for them. I'm just relating what I've learned from that report, that forthcoming there will be changes coming to the court administration to implement whatever needs to be done to make sure that the work environment is not hostile, that people are treated with respect, and that we diminish these situations. As a judge, particularly, how would I deal to make sure that these things don't happen in my courtroom?
Yes.
The judge is the leader of the courtroom, right? The judge is the boss of the courtroom. They manage the courtroom. That means they have to set the tone. So when you're on the bench, the language you use when you refer to individuals that are appearing before you, the respect that you offer people, right, who are appearing before you, that sets the tone for your staff, your court clerks, your court attorneys, the court officers, everyone in that courtroom that sees you and how you act. That's how they're going to act with the individuals before you. And as the judge, you're the leader, right? So if you see someone acting in an inappropriate manner, my obligation is to call that person out, not necessarily embarrass them or belittle them, but call them out individually and in private. I teach at Monroe College. I'm a professor in criminal justice. And one thing that I talk to my students about all the time is something called implicit bias. Implicit bias is something that we all have, and it's a scary term because people think when you say that we all have implicit bias, you're saying, no, don't say that about me because I'm not biased. Implicit bias is not the same as explicit bias. Explicit bias is when you are truly like, you hate everything and you say you hate it and that's it.
Yeah, you're consciously aware of your...
Right, consciously aware. Very good. So implicit bias is stuff that we have in the back of our minds. We grew up in a particular group and we may have heard comments about other ethnicities. It doesn't mean we believe it. It may not even mean that the person who said it believes it, but that stuff is in the back of our minds. So when we grow up and we go
decision that we make without realizing that we made it.
Absolutely. So when we grow up and we go into the world and we're meeting people from different different places, our frame of reference is not, I'm meeting this person and he has tabula rasa. He has a blank slate that I can look at. They have a blank slate. We're meeting with the cross reference of whatever we have experienced in our life, right? So if you're a judge, and everyone has it, right? We're not gods. We're not mini gods. We're human beings trying to do a job. So the important part, what makes a person more qualified than the other, is the ability to understand that concept and check it, right? Check it and train and be culturally aware and read about other people and know that we don't all exist in one little vacuum where we all are gray blobs,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So
With talking about systematic racism, would you believe that defunding the police would be the best solution to kind of curb the systematic racism in the country as a whole, if you would put it?
as
Because you
a
did
judge
answer not
can,
just for Bronx. So, like, let's say for a whole of New York, would defunding the police be a solution?
as a judge candidate, I cannot take positions on policy, right? Because I will not be doing policy when I become a judge. And I will not be able to address that question only because it is not something that is within the position that I'm running for. It is also a very controversial topic that is best left to the people who are voting versus how they're talking to their politicians, and they can weigh who they best choose to fit that policy, that change in the criminal justice system.
Okay, all right then. Do you have any final messages for the New York members, for the judiciary, or to the generality of New Yorkers?
So I'm hoping that they will support me. I know that you cover the Parkchester area, right?
Sweden.
You're in the Parkchester area. The position that I'm running for does not cover Parkchester area, meaning if you go to the website www.ygtforbronxjudge.com, it'll show you the district and it'll show you the neighborhoods. If you live anywhere in Belmont, Crotona, parts of Crotona, Riverdale, Norwood, Kingsbridge, Burnside, down Spiden, Dyville, all the way down to Mott Haven and Port Morris, right? Then you can vote for me on June 22nd, 2021. If you would like to volunteer for my campaign, please send me an email, send my campaign team an email at info at ygtforbronxjudge.com. You can shoot me an email. Also, my candidate email is Yadhira, Yadhira at ygtforbronxjudge.com. And I'm hoping, if anyone's interested in learning how to become a judge, or if they want to talk more to their neighbors in a town hall, that they'll invite my team and myself over to talk a little more about judges and courts and stuff like that. I'm having what I call a cafecita, which is coffee, right? A friend of mine, Flora Montes, and Celida Diaz are hosting a cafecito for me. We're going to meet everyone virtually, just like this. And bring your coffee and we can talk a little bit more in private about the court system and everything that we have in our criminal justice system and everything else that is at stake at the election. So
Do you have a Facebook page as well that it would be easier for people to kind of just reach out there?
yes, so I'm on
Instagram.
Absolutely, I'm on Instagram. It's YGT the number 4 Bronx Judge, YGT number 4 Bronx Judge. On Facebook, my campaign has a page. It's called Yadhira for Bronx Judge, or for Bronx Civil Court Judge. If you type my name in on Facebook, you'll find my profile and you'll find the campaign profile. I'm also on Twitter. My personal Twitter account is at Gothamesque, GOTHAMESQ. And my judge Twitter account, or the judicial campaign Twitter account, is at Yadhira for Bronx Judge, spelled with an H. Yadhira.
So much. We actually do cover New York Parrot covers New York nationals and global issues. I believe that it is
That's great.
Parkchester Times that covers the entire Bronx County.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I
Oh, that's
clarified that part.
wonderful. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Thank you so much again for joining us. We appreciate you for taking in the time and educating us and the community a little bit more about the judiciary system. We thank you so much. We hope to see, we'll keep you in our prayers and we'll make sure that everybody goes out to vote This is an important position, and like you said, you don't know where tomorrow is going to take you. So it is always better to just check out who your candidates are, know what they're for, and make sure you're voting for what's best for you. So we thank you again so much for your time, for joining us on
Absolutely.
Parrot TV and the politics. Hopefully, we'll get to see you again once you're elected, and then we can go celebrate you here as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Have a good day, okay?
You as well. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Hopefully, you guys have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your Friday, and thank you. Bye.